Welcome to this evening's information session for students like you who are interested in citizenship and civic engagement at Syracuse University. My name is Rachel Skipper. I will be moderating today's event. I work in admissions at Syracuse. So I'm happy after this event to answer any admissions related questions you might have or general questions about the university. But I am not going to be running the show. We have Professor Carboni here and we have Rebecca Sereboff, who is a Syracuse student, and they will be kind of talking to you a little bit more about the CCE major at Syracuse, the student experience, research opportunities, internship opportunities, the list goes on and on. They have kind of given me a preview of what they are going to chat with you about, and also let me know that we would like to spend a majority of this session on Q&A, which is great for you all. So please think about what questions you have for our professor and student, and feel free to ask those questions in the chat as we go through these talking points, and then we will turn it over to you for a formal Q&A at the end of the session. So just to give you a little preview of how things are going to run, and again, please use the chat to your advantage. With that, I will kick it off to our real session leaders to introduce themselves and start running with CCE info.
I am Julia Carboni. I am the chair of the CCE program. I'm also a professor at the Maxwell School, and my research expertise is in collaboration, community development, and then also managing nonprofits. I have a PhD in management from the Eller College of Management at the University of Arizona. And prior to coming to Maxwell, I was a professor at the School of Public and Environmental Affairs and the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy at Indiana University. I love Maxwell much more, and I can tell you why if you want to know. But I just want to start with this is a really special place. And when I was asked to lead the CCE program, I jumped on that chance because I felt like it was an opportunity to engage with undergraduate students in making the world a better place. And I'm going to tell you all about that, and I can tell you more about myself. But before I do that, I would like Rebecca to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her CCE, what she's working on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Sereboff. I am a senior, which is hard to believe, majoring in CCE, and then my companion major, which I'm sure you guys will learn all about later, is political science, and I'm minoring in Middle Eastern studies. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I applied directly into CCE from high school. So I started off fresh in CCE and have really enjoyed all of the classes that I've taken thus far. I know a lot of you talked about internship opportunities, and I'm happy we can maybe hop back to that later on. But right now I'm working on my action plan, which is the final component of someone's CCE journey. And you're more or less tasked with picking something and then doing something about it. So I am working on electrifying a lot of SU's transportation. So getting car chargers and laying out the framework for our buses and university-owned vehicles to become electric, all in hopes of lessening our carbon footprint. How's that?
That's perfect. And we'll come back to that and we'll talk a little bit more about the action plan too. So thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for being here too. So what is CCE, Citizenship and Civic Engagement? This name doesn't quite reflect all of the work that we do, and we're actually working on rebranding the program so it talks a little bit more about community impact in the name, because that's really what this program is about. It's about community impact. And so our CCE students can now be directly admitted when they start their undergraduate career. It didn't used to be the case. You used to have to come in and apply. You can be directly admitted to Maxwell. But like Rebecca said, you can choose CCE as your major coming right into SU. And we will welcome you and get you paired up with a peer mentor. And I'll talk more about that in a second. Some of the things I want to talk about with CCE is that it is the signature program of the Maxwell School. So this is a program that doesn't have a departmental home like sociology or political science or anthropology or geography. Instead, we draw from across the social sciences in the Maxwell School to give you a well-rounded and interdisciplinary experience. And so what this means is that you get to pick the thing that you're passionate about, and we help you figure out how to do something about it. So every CCE student that comes in majors in CCE and then another major. So it could be anything in the Maxwell School. We also have students who are majoring in schools outside of Maxwell, including Newhouse. And then we have students who have majors that are in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, which is what Maxwell is a part of. So, for example, I had a conversation this morning with a junior who's majoring in Women and Gender Studies and CCE. And so she's thinking a lot about how to get more housing for victims of domestic violence because there's a lack of housing. And so really real world problems. What this means, what the CCE program does, is we develop you in coursework in thinking about what does it mean to be a citizen, what is community engagement, how do we do it ethically, and then we guide you into thinking about a problem, doing research about that problem, and then creating an action plan to address the problem. So our courses, the core CCE coursework, include Max 301, which is a seminar on citizenship and engagement. I teach that course. I teach it every semester. And it is capped at 15 students. So all of our courses are capped at 15 students per semester. Every once in a while we get 18 or so that sneak in, but none of our courses have been over 20 students. And typically there are around 13 to 15 students in each of the core CCE courses. This is because we keep the program small so that it can be intensive and we can build community among students and faculty in the program. So we admit about 30 students per year. We actually start getting you guys in courses in your sophomore year usually. So your freshman year, you work on some of those gen ed requirements. You take some of the lower division courses like Max 123 or 132, which is basically contemporary issues. 123 is the domestic issues class, 132 is international issues. We also ask you to take your other gen eds, a methods class, and then in your sophomore year, either in your fall or spring semester, we slot you into Max 301, which is that course that I teach that I was telling you about. In that course, we talk about community engagement. We talk about how to do it ethically, how to engage with stakeholders, how to identify stakeholders. And I lead students through group projects and thinking about community engagement. We work with community partners, so you're doing real world work right away when you start your course sequence for this program. At the same time, you're going to take Max 310, which is your community placement class. This is a really neat class in that you actually meet once a week with the instructor, and then the rest of the second day of coursework, and then a few extra hours a week, you actually spend time in a community-based organization doing work for that organization. So right now we have students placed in a law clinic. We have a student placed at the Community Folk Arts Center. We have a student placed at the LGBTQ Center that's on campus. We've had students placed at the Erie Canal Museum. We've had students placed all over. A lot of our placements are in the city of Syracuse, but one of the things that we learned during the COVID times is that we're able to take students and put them into these placements that are outside of Syracuse. And so we're working really hard on thinking about how do we place students in organizations to do impact work that is not necessarily in Syracuse. And so on our end, we're really open. If you have an idea of an organization that you'd like to work with, definitely bring that to us and we'll figure out how to make it work. But we're also working on more systematic ways of getting students into community placements that are not necessarily in Syracuse. On that front, we've just received a very large gift from the Kramer Family Foundation to support students doing work in Rochester, Utica, and Syracuse, and also to hire a professor of practice that helps with developing these relationships as well. So we're really thinking about how do we expand our footprint out of Syracuse. And so that professor will handle the central New York area or upstate New York area. And Amy Schmidt and I are working on a plan to get into sort of larger cities in the US and eventually internationally so that you can do community placements wherever we can get you slotted in if you can do some of that stuff remotely. So you do these two classes together in your sophomore year, they're paired together. In your junior year, you take a research seminar, and in that research seminar, you identify the problem that you're going to work on individually, and then eventually develop a community action plan on. But in the research seminar, we teach you how to do research. Basically, we get you certified to do human subjects research, which means that you could be out interviewing people or talking to people, and then you complete a research project. So examples of recent research projects looked at, for example, uptake of universal pre-K programs. So this is free preschool by new American families, immigrant and refugee families in the Syracuse area, because we've had low uptake. And so research about why there might be low uptake. The student who's working on that is currently working on her community action plan, where she's actually going out and talking to people about the barriers that they're facing and trying to get more people into pre-K, universal pre-K, because it's free and available to them. I also told you a little bit about the student who's moving into her research seminar, and she wants to put together a coalition to provide housing to domestic violence victims. One of the things that we know about domestic violence victims is that they often can't access public benefits because they have assets that are tied to their abuser, and they may still be married. And so she's thinking about, how do we put together a coalition so that domestic violence victims can actually get access to housing beyond sort of emergency assistance. So this is a really cool project. I have another student who is working with the Syracuse Onondaga Food System Alliance. This is a food policy council that seeks to connect organizations across the food system and create better outcomes for communities. I had a student interning, I think, like I said, in the Erie Canal Museum, who's thinking a lot about planning. So basically, you can be interested in any kind of social problem, and we're going to teach you how to attack that problem. And then to get more content knowledge, you're going to take Connective coursework, which is going to teach you about that problem. So, for example, the student who's working on shelters for domestic violence victims is a women and gender studies major as well. And so she's taking courses related to sort of the history of women and also social assistance and other sort of government policies that might be able to help. Once you've completed your research course, you'll be working on your Connective coursework as a junior and senior. These are 3 courses that you take with content related to whatever issue you want to solve. You move into Max 401, which is a community action plan class. This is where you actually put together the pieces to come up with a plan that can be implemented, right? So that will address the problem. This is a great course to take, and sometimes it sounds scary for students to think about they're going to develop a plan that involves community partners and tackles a problem, but we're here every step of the way to guide you. And one of the reasons that we keep the classes small is so that we have enough time as faculty to engage with you and to help you think through what it is you want to do and guide you there. Our faculty have expertise in community engagement, community development, stakeholder engagement. And if we don't have the expertise, we can find someone who does in order to help you move further with your problem that you want to solve. And so with this, we're teaching you guys practical skills. So I know parents always want to hear about the practical skills you're going to learn as a college student. I'm a parent of a almost high schooler. He's in 8th grade this year. And so it's something that I also think about. And so the practical skills that we're teaching you are, a lot of them are related to community engagement work, but there's also critical thinking, problem solving. We teach you how to facilitate, how to engage with different stakeholders. And while a lot of this is really rooted in community-based work, these skills really transfer, particularly in management settings. And I apologize, I have a puppy and he's sort of in his last hour where he likes to bark and play. So I apologize for the extra noise. The other thing that I wanted to say about CCE, in addition to this coursework and the skills that we're teaching you, is that we try to provide a really supportive environment for our students. So we're a small program. I, am really of the mindset that being inclusive, being welcoming, and being supportive will help set students up to be successful. So to this end, we have a couple of different things that we do. So we have a peer mentor program, which Rebecca will tell you more about in a minute because she's the senior lead peer mentor. But this peer mentor takes all incoming freshmen and pairs them with a mentor who is either a junior or a senior. This program also extends to sophomores. So all of our freshmen and sophomore students are paired with a mentor who can answer questions about the CCE program. They have social events, they hang out, but it's a way to sort of keep students in the flock, basically, to keep them engaged in the program, particularly because you're not going to start your coursework until the sophomore year. We want you to be a part of the program, and we want you to feel welcomed and included. In addition to the peer mentor program, we've also started hosting field trips for CCE students that are open to all CCE students. Because of COVID and restrictions, we've started kind of small. We had one event this semester, and we'll have two next semester. Our event this semester was to take a bus from Syracuse University to downtown Syracuse and to do a walking tour of the city of Syracuse, including pointing out places in the city that you might be able to do your community placement or other types of work. And so it was a really fun walking tour. We did it on a really nice Saturday in October. The weather was perfect. And so with that, we're trying to teach you a little bit about the city that you're living next to or in. And then we're also teaching you how to get down there. There's actually a bus that goes and runs every single day where you can take it downtown to explore cultural amenities, but also to maybe work on one of these community placements. In addition to that, we have regular events throughout the semester. So our research class, the Max 302, and our community action plan class, where we're actually sort of putting together a plan, that's our Max 401, host an event at the end of every semester to demonstrate what they've done. And so we welcome all of our students into these events, particularly our freshmen and sophomores, so they can get an idea of what they're doing. And if you connect with me, I'll put my email in the chat in a minute. We're actually going to live stream our action plan presentations the first week of December. So this is when students get up and talk about the community action plan that they've developed. And each student gives a presentation for that. And so you're welcome to join us. And then for our research seminar class, the one that comes in your junior year, we do poster presentations, and we set that up in the Maxwell School. And we invite community members, we invite all of our CCE students, but you can come and learn about what your peers are doing, get ideas from them on what might be a good research project or what might be a good community action plan in the other. We also have a welcome back dinner. We have mixers. We really try to create sort of a community feel. And finally, we have a commons room. So we have it's kind of small, but it'll fit, quite a few people, particularly as the COVID restrictions are lifted and we can have more people in a space. And we're actually remodeling it right now, where it's a space in our office suite where students can just come and hang out. Amy Schmidt, who is the program coordinator, and I have provided things like snacks and other things so students can kind of come and hang out. And the peer mentors also hold office hours there. So Rebecca and Olivia, the junior lead peer mentor, will come in and they're there to hang out and to answer questions and talk to you in addition to whatever peer mentor you're assigned to. And so these are some of the events we have. And then I want to talk a little bit about funding. So students often go do cool stuff in the summer and they need financial support. And we've been able to secure funds to give students funds to do work in the summer. And so these are, we put out the call usually in March and we say, hey, we want to hear about what you're doing this summer. Do you need financial assistance? You submit an application with a budget, and then we're able to give students up to usually around $2,500 to support them in the summer. This is money that, we're not going to ask for you to give us a detailed sort of how you spent it. Instead, we welcome you back in the fall and you give a presentation on the cool stuff you did that summer. Let us know how our support sort of helped with your summer project. So last summer, we had a student who was placed in LA, and she was working on education policy and getting civic engagement education into high schools. She was working on it with a think tank in UC Irvine, and we helped support her living expenses. We had another student who worked with Amazon to develop programs to get unused product into communities and into nonprofits. And so his program that he developed moved about $250,000 worth of unused Amazon product into the community. So these are the types of things students are doing. We like to be able to support you financially if we can. And then, I also want to brag, we have lots of honors students. We have Cournot scholars. Our students tend to be really award winning. And the dean is really invested in this program too. Dean Van Slyke really looks at this as a program that embodies the ethos of the Maxwell School. And that ethos is really to leave the place better than we found it. So we're all about community impact. We're all about making the world a better place. We're not prescriptive in how you do that or what problems you're going to work on or what issues you want to face or address, but instead we want to give you the skills and the tools to make the world a better place. So I'm going to, I think I've hit all of my high notes. I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca to give you a little bit more information about her experience and to tell you a little bit about the Peer Mentors program, and then we'll open it up to questions. I'm really, invested in hearing what you guys have to say. So Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you. My CCE experience has been wonderful. I was actually reflecting with my parents the other day. I'm home for Thanksgiving, about how it's been like probably the most formative aspect of my college career. I think something that you talked about that I want to reference is class size has been really big for me. Well, I guess very small, but impactful to me nonetheless. Having 15 people in your core classes, like you can't compare anything to that. And having these relationships with professors has been really special and very impactful during my time at Syracuse. And I think something I wouldn't have gotten had I have chosen to go elsewhere or maybe just stuck within the political science field, which is super unique for, I guess, my CCE journey, if you will. So a lot of folks will do their community placement, which happens their sophomore year. It comes first, like something having to do with something that they'll end up researching. So a lot of folks will do their placement at RISE, which is a nonprofit that helps support refugees and immigrants in the Syracuse area. And then their junior year, they'll research something having to do with that. And then their senior year, they'll do an action plan that has something to do with that. Totally normal. I am not one of those folks. I did my community placement at Senator Gillibrand's regional office in the spring of 2020, which was super cool and really valuable experience for me. And I, got the connection because I am a CCE student. And I know a lot of you want to talk about internships, which I've had a number of, and we can continue to talk about them later on once we get to questions. But all of them I got because of these CCE connections. So I did my community placement there, decided I really liked it, but there wasn't really anything that stuck out to me that I wanted to, that, came up in the internship that I was like, I want to research this, I want to do it. But I have a deep passion for the environment and am really excited about finding ways to reduce carbon emissions. So I researched electric buses, which is really niche, my junior year during the research seminar. And then now I'm working on my action plan right now to help electrify some portion of our campus transportation. You want me to talk about peer mentoring next? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So every student who comes into CCE is matched with a peer mentor. Ordinarily, it's someone who will share something with you. So sometimes that's your same major, or sometimes that's some sort of identity or a hobby. And they are there to help you do whatever you need as you go through the program. I know that my peer mentor, her name is Lila. She's so wonderful. We're still in touch, and I'm a senior. And she and I were matched my freshman year. So we've been, talking for 4 years, and she is one of the greatest role models I think that I could ever ask for, and has been extremely helpful to me as I move through CCE. So we'll pair you, and then when you become a junior or a senior, you'll have the opportunity to be a mentor, which I think is equally, if not more, fun, and help younger students out in CCE. And I think that it builds a really beautiful community amongst our major. And definitely you might chat more with your mentor, but what's cool about our program, and I know the commons that you talked about earlier, is that everyone is physically in the same space a lot. So it makes it really easy if, my friend Blake has a mentee who's really excited about transportation. Blake and I have class together all the time. So Blake can say, hey, Rebecca, my mentee, Sarah, you guys should chat and you should get to know her. So you'll definitely spend the most time with your mentor, but due to the nature of the program, we all get to be together all the time and share resources and people with one another.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and I want to reiterate just the nature of this program. It's a really special program that you get to know each other and you get close and you get to learn about all kinds of cool things, but you also really get to know the faculty and the staff. And I don't know very many programs where the faculty are really know the students this well. And we know all of you. We have a database, and we talk about you all the time in good ways about like the cool stuff that you're doing. And we're accessible too. So I'm in the office all the time, and my door's open, and I meet with students all the time. Sometimes they just want to talk about stuff. Sometimes it's really specific. But this is a program that has sort of huge access to faculty, and we are really striving to make it sort of a home base for students so that they can come in and be around even when they don't have a specific question. So in that commons area, we want this to be a good space for students and that they hang out. So I think, we should probably open it up to see if there are questions. Before we do that, I did say, so the action plan research presentations are going to be on Friday, December 10th from 9 a.m. to noon. And so we'll have a link soon. We don't have the Zoom link set up. Our IT people are working on that, but I put my email address in the chat. And if you reach out to me, I can send you the link when we have it. But you can also reach out to me if you have any questions about the program, or if you want to set up a time to talk, either on Zoom or the phone. Please feel free to reach out. Again, we want to be as welcoming as we can and make sure that people feel good about being here. So with that, let's open it up to questions. What questions do you guys have? Lucy Rosenblatt.
Hi. What are some classes that you guys take like freshman year, since you mainly talked about the next 3 years after that?
Yeah. So, Rebecca, why don't you tell us tell us the courses you took. You have the direct experience.
Sounds good. So freshman year, you will take either Max 132 or 123, which I think remains probably one of my favorite classes that I've taken all 4 years of college. And one focuses on, issues within the US, and the other on issues in the global community. It's team taught by professors, and you have these very stimulating lectures and then even more stimulating discussions. And every CCE student is required to take either 123 or 132, and then the majority will actually take both, which is super cool. So you'll take that your first year, and then most folks will also take Max 201 their first year, which is like quantitative methods. So it's like statistics light, if you will, and it teaches you a lot of really important skills for how to analyze the research that you will do the next year or the year after.
Yeah, and then you fill out the remainder of your coursework with gen ed requirements. So for example, if you take 123 and 132, if you take both of those, it satisfies a sequence of courses for your lower division liberal arts core. That's also when you might be, knocking out math classes or English classes. And then as you move into your sophomore, junior, senior year, you get more specialized and more focused on both of your majors. So yeah. But I do want to say, even though you're not taking the CCE courses in the first year, we still try to create opportunities so that you feel like you're a part of the CCE program and sort of part of the CCE family. So we're there. I mean, with freshmen all the time. So now we're going to go to Gabby.
Okay, so I had 2 questions, one for you and one for Rebecca. So one of them was, when transferring AP credits, do you guys accept 3-year hires, or is it like 4 and 5s only? And for Rebecca, what is your most positive experience you've had with like the mentor program within this?
Let's start with Rebecca, and then we'll have Rachel answer. I think it's 4s and 5s, but Rachel will confirm that. But let's hear about Rebecca's best. Or what do you want to confirm it now, and then we'll hear about Rebecca's best?
We do accept 4s and 5s. It depends on the exam, and I will post a link in the chat to where you need to look for scores.
Thanks, Rachel. Rebecca.
I think my favorite CCE pure mentor related experience so far. There are so many to pick from. It's hard to pick one. Okay, so ordinarily your junior year, you'll make a poster and do a research presentation. And I think I mentioned earlier that my peer mentor, Lila, and I are incredibly close. And I sent her my poster, and she came on the Zoom presentation, because she had graduated she had graduated. And she came on the presentation, and it was really cool to me to think about how she had really helped me to get to that point in my CCE journey, if you will. And for her to be there and watch me present was really special.
And I would say Lila's name comes up a lot. Before I took over as chair of this program. Lila had actually graduated from CCE and then was an MPA student. And so I had her as a master's student, and she was by far and away one of my best MPA students. And when I found out she was a CCE student, I was just even more in to be like, I can, teach students like this. This is awesome. So yeah, but all of our students are like that. It's really incredible. We're going to go to Emma and then Mia.
I had a question. It's sort of specific to Rebecca, as what she described her major and minor to be is like very similar to what I'd be interested in doing at Syracuse. I was wondering if Rebecca would be able to talk a little bit about the Middle Eastern studies minor, because that's something that's kind of unique to Syracuse. Some other schools have it, but not in the same way. So I'd love to hear more about that if there's time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the funny story about this Middle Eastern studies minor is that I accidentally locked myself into it. And then I went to advising, they were like, you're 2 classes away. And I was like, awesome, we're doing it. So I took 3 semesters of Hebrew my freshman and sophomore year. And then that already, that got me a significant number of credits into it. And then I'm interested in the Middle East generally. So I took a couple political science classes that were focused on the Middle East, and then went to advising. They were like, you are super close to a minor. So I actually declared it 2 weeks ago, the first semester of my senior year, but it's awesome. It's really cool. There are a really interesting variety of course topics that professors will teach about. There's, the basic, I know that you can read about it on the catalog, but like the basic, like you have to take politics in the Middle East and you have to take certain courses, but then there are these really focused courses that professors will teach. Right now I'm taking a war and conflict in the Middle East class. That's all about war in the Middle East and how that shapes the region. So it's super cool. And it's a small group of students who do it too. So you get to know, similar to CCE, the students that travel with you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I haven't heard a lot of people who actually are doing it. So that's just really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and we also have a lot of students who have their second major as international affairs or international relations. And so that would also be a nice pairing with the Middle Eastern Studies minor and CCE. So opportunities are endless, and we're here to help you figure it out. Mia, let's go to you.
Hi, so I had a question because I would be potentially interested in studying abroad for junior year. And I was wondering how this program extends to community action outside of just the university and the campus here, and how if you went to a different country, if that would how that works.
Yeah, so a couple of things, high notes to hit is that the CCE core courses are offered every semester. So the Max 301, 310, 302, and 401, those classes that you have to take as your core, you can take any semester. Or they're offered every semester. So if you were to go abroad your junior year, you're not going to miss the CCE core coursework. One other thing that I want to say is that a lot of our students use their study abroad to do some of their connective coursework. So those courses that help you develop content expertise. And so we see that. We also are pretty flexible in working if you have a community placement abroad, and that might be, it depends on where you go and sort of what the connections are, but we can explore that option and maybe doing sort of an independent study so that you're not in the course meetings because the time differences are so big. But if you can find a community placement, or we can help you find a community placement, we're willing to entertain you doing some of that work abroad. And then in terms of the community action plans, we don't require that they're in Syracuse. And actually one of the reasons, or one of the things that I've been working on as I took over this program earlier this year, is to think more about how we can have more international work and more work that happens outside of New York. And so, like I said before, we're working on making that systematic, but we're also open to hearing what you have to say. Because of the small nature of this program, we have these frequent contacts. And so we want to hear what you want to do, and we want to figure out how to make it work. And then the final thing I would say is that sometimes our students do study abroad in the summer because that's when they can fit it in. And so last summer, for example, we were able to support a student with our high impact scholars when she went to Spain, and she was able to do some work there. And so lots of different things. A lot of our students do either study abroad internationally or they do a semester in DC. And so it's pretty common that our students would be gone for a semester, and it always works out. So we'll make it work. Let's go to Kathy and then Kayla and then Alex.
Hi, so I have a question about admissions. So first is the CC focused essay, I think. So I read that there's an essay that is more CCA focused, and though I cannot find it on the common application, so I was just wondering if there's any change in providing that essay this year. The second question I have is about the double major as part of CCE. So I was wondering if that other major, does it need to be within the same college, as in, does it need to be from Maxwell, or can we take a double major from other colleges as well? So yeah.
Yeah, so the reason you can't find that essay is because we took it out. So we wanted to lower the barriers to getting people to apply. And so my staff and I have been working with Rachel and the Maxwell Admissions staff to think about how can we make it easier for students to apply to our program. Just as, point of reference, I have a niece that just went through, college applications last year, and I saw how stressful it was for her to have to do even just one more short essay. And so we've been working to think about how we look at your extracurricular activities, your Common Core app, your Why Syracuse question to assess fit for the program. So you don't have to write that essay, we took it out. In terms of the double major, yes, you can double major in other schools. So I think our most frequent double major school is in Newhouse. So we have lots of students who are doing public relations. I have a student that's doing broadcasting. She's working on a documentary. And so for her community action plan, that's what she plans to do. And so you can major with schools outside of Maxwell. Maxwell is a part of the College of Arts and Sciences, and so we have the liberal arts core. So any of the arts and sciences majors that are outside of Maxwell, that's super easy to do. And then we're trying to figure out how to have better alignment with Whitman, which is the business school, and then the I school, but certainly it's doable. But our biggest sort of outside of Maxwell, the majors are the larger College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and then the Newhouse School of Communications. Kayla, and then Alex, and then Ben.
Yeah, this is a question more for Rebecca. Have there been any specific moments where you felt your involvement with the CCE program, either the research aspects or community placement, has complemented or furthered your political science coursework?
Totally, 100% yes. I think if CCE teaches you so many valuable skills aside from what you're studying or what you're trying to implement. I think it teaches you how to analyze way better than anything else that I've ever interacted with. And I, pick up and use those skills a lot in political science. And I think vice versa, political science to CCE as well. I think CCE also connects me very well towards political science. I worked, the reason that I was able to do my placement where I was my sophomore year with Senator Gillibrand's office is because an email went out to the political science listserv that I was then able to turn back into CCE. So they both complement each other really well.
Thanks, Rebecca. Alex.
So another question for Rebecca. What is one thing about the CCE program that wouldn't come up in a formal Q&A like this, but you still think is really important?
Awesome question. That was an awesome question. Something that maybe wouldn't come up is I think the ability that you have to build relationships with professors. I am working right now on my action plan with Professor Will Coxon, who sent me the funniest email today with like all these different puns about electric vehicles, which is like totally niche that I find that funny. But I think if I were in your shoes, I would ask about like the relationships that you're able to build with professors. And I would say prior to my senior year, every single CCE professor that I have had, when I register for courses the next semester, I always look to see if they're teaching anything because I'm always so excited about what I've learned from them. And like these professors are invested and interested in you even after your class. So my action plan is going to get to a pretty good place by December, which is when the class ends. But I want to keep going. I want to keep doing it. So Professor Will Coxon, who advises our entire class, but also works his research specifically on electric vehicles and stuff in that space, has offered to keep working on this with me through January, February. So I think that the relationships and the investment that not only you have in these professors, but that these professors have in you is just unmatched.
And we love these students, our students. It's really, it's just a really special place. You get to have those relationships for sure. Let's go to Ben and then Pamela.
Yeah, thanks for both of you for talking with us about the program. I was kind of wondering if students always focus on the same sort of topics or issues over the years during the program, or if people ever change, like if they volunteer on the same topic, they research, that they do the final project on, all those kind of things.
So you can do either. We encourage you to stick with a particular topic, but sometimes that doesn't work out or your interests change, and we're not here to tell you that your interests can't change. And so I would say that Amy, who's the program coordinator and does advising as well, we spend a lot of time with students thinking through, like, am I really interested in this? What parts of it? And if you want to change it, we're here to support that and to help you think about how to get up to speed if you need to do research. But we're open, and again, because of the small nature of the program, we kind of know what everybody's working on, and then we're also able to connect you to organizations in this community, but in other communities. The thing that we haven't mentioned, but is really important, is that our Maxwell alumni are just incredible. If you go to LinkedIn and you find someone that's a Maxwell alumni, and you email them and you say, "Hey, I'm a current Maxwell student, can we talk?" I've never heard of a Maxwell alum saying no. It's pretty tight knit, and we have a lot of sort of reach back from our alumni into the school, which is, I think, something else that is special about Maxwell that you don't see it in a lot of other places. And it's a real testament to the good experiences that people have in this building. So if you get interested in something else that is completely on a different topic, we'll work to get you caught up and connected. Pamela.
Hi, first of all, I just want to say I love the enthusiasm about CCE from Rebecca. And I just wanted to ask, would you say that the program ties you more into internships as well, or is it just more like class focused?
This is a great opportunity to talk about my internships. Thank you so much. Both. I would say both. I think that some folks continue to go the internship way and some continue to go the class way. I think the nature of the program pulls you into like the class aspect of it. But that's not to say that like people will do their internships, from their sophomore year until their senior year and love it, or people will, figure out, I think we talk about this in the program a lot, is figuring out what you dislike is just as valuable as figuring out what you do like. Folks will have an internship during their community placement, not love it, but then learn what they do like and then move forward and intern again. So I, for example, have had an internship every semester since spring of my sophomore year. I worked with Senator Gillibrand's regional office, spring of 2020. I was meant to do the Maxwell in Washington program fall of 2020, but like the majority of the world, that did not happen. But I was able to keep an internship, which was cool. I worked with the State Department, which was awesome. And then these are like all through Syracuse connections too, might I add. The spring of 2021. Yep, 2021. I worked with the Environmental Protection Agency, which was wonderful, and also totally a Syracuse connection. And then this fall, I'm working with the Jewish youth movement that I was a part of in high school. So CCE makes these things totally doable, completely applicable. to what you're doing, and you can get class credit for doing them too, which is really awesome.
And we, one of the things too that we invest in is making connections to make sure that if a student comes in and says, hey, I want to work on this, that either we already have a connection to an alum or an organization, or we can make one to help foster that so that you're not out there searching out things on your own, because that can be overwhelming. Yeah. Well, I hope that we have conveyed our excitement for this program. This was something that, my background is in community organizing and community development work, and this is just a perfect program to really learn about that and to engage in it as well. But we have another question, Gabby, and then James.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I saw James raise his hand. I wasn't sure if you had seen it. I just wanted to mention that.
I'm seeing it now. He sent me a message. It didn't like pop up on my thing. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate your assistance with that and making sure that his voice is heard. So James, what's your question?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find the raise the hand feature, but
That's okay.
my question is to Rebecca. You talked about being able to analyze. I was just curious about how else has CCE changed your perspective / thinking on the real world, and how has it also impacted on what you want to do overall in life?
Awesome question. Okay, so definitely the analyzing and parts of the classroom helps. I think CCE has taught me so much of what the program is. It's about how do you ethically help the world around you, and how do you make an impactful change? How do you make a lasting change? And how do you make a change that, actually does something? So I think that has greatly impacted how I see the world and how I hope to continue, to inform my life. But it's also helped me understand where I want to work and what I want to do. And I think it's also helped me understand in a big way, which I know we have talked about before, how do you analyze change, and how can I say, this looks like change, this is, we made 600 cards, or we made 500 phone calls to voters. That definitely is what change looks like. But CCE has helped me to understand that there's so many different components to change and so many different components to action that we get to analyze, celebrate, and be responsible for, that are and are not as clear cut as some of the things that we might think of when we think of change in the beginning. Does that answer your question? I know that was a little abstract.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, are there any other questions before we break? Okay, but if you do have questions, I put my email in the chat a number of times. Really feel free to reach out to me. We want you to be here. We want you to come in, and we want you to just be a part of the program and to help us make community impact, and again, leave the world better than we found it. I'm going to turn it back to Rachel to see if she has any last thoughts or comments.
First comment, thank you, Professor Carboni and Rebecca, for taking your very valuable time to spend with the students in the room. I know they all share my appreciation for your time this evening. And I will also say to the students in the room, thank you for your time. We don't underestimate what a crazy time it is for you right now. It's stressful, it's packed between school and the college application, and I know it's not always fun. So let me know how I can help you. If you have follow-up questions, I'm in the process of leaving my email again in the chat. You can also see it here. But we do hope that you'll reach out to us when you have questions or need help in the future. I think this was a very informative session, and I know it's going to kind of ruminate and you will have questions tonight, tomorrow. So do let us know, just via email what questions you have for us, and we look forward to talking to you then. Thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Professor Carboni and Rebecca, for spending your time with us, and we will talk to you all next time.
Thank you. And thank you. Special thank you to Rebecca for coming too. And happy holidays to everyone. Email us. Feel free to reach out. Don't be scared. We're super friendly.